Hey, it's Alana Lockett, money in your pocket, fuel to your rocket, electric to your socket. I am here with an amazing individual, Professor Michael Kelly, who is an international criminal law professor at Creighton University and has been overseeing the Nuremberg to The Hague program for, has it been 14 years?
Yes.
Yes, so well over almost a decade and a half working in this program. And tell me a little bit about the program for my audience who may not know.
So for criminal law, there's sort of a through line to what we teach students in law schools. You have to understand the intent of the criminal to commit the crime, how they committed it, collect the evidence, prosecute it, and use the right legal theories, whatever the charge is, whether it's murder, theft, burglary, manslaughter, whatever. In the international context, that's genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, aggression. It's sort of elevated to those systemic crimes. And this all started in Nuremberg in 1945 when we had 21 Nazi leaders after World War II that we had to decide what to do with. Do we execute them or do we prosecute them? Our colleagues in the war, especially the Soviets, were fine with executing them. But the Americans said, no, doesn't that make us as bad as the Nazis? Everybody deserves a trial. The rule of law should prevail. And so we convinced our allies to go along with us and prosecute these Nazi leaders here in Nuremberg for those crimes. And so this is considered the birthplace of international criminal law. And that's our starting point. That's the Nuremberg component. The Hague is where international criminal law currently lives, at the International Criminal Court and other tribunals. So that's the legacy of Nuremberg, really.
So we've got this, the foundation of international criminal law. This is a fairly new space when we compare it to the history of our legal or judicial system. So you've got this foundation of the international criminal law, which was established in Nuremberg. But now from 1945 on, there are a number of conflicts that now we are, when I say we, I mean the international community, is looking to prosecute. Since 1945 till now, what do you believe has been the most influential conflict pertaining to international criminal law?
Boy, that would be hard to select one. The current one that really is kind of got people's attention, and that includes all of these things, is the conflict in Ukraine. The Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022 really was a surprise to the Russians that the International Criminal Court even had jurisdiction. But Ukraine had asked for the International Criminal Court to do something way back in 2015 after Russia took Crimea. So when they came back in 2022 to take the rest of Ukraine, or as much of it as they could get, they walked into a situation where the ICC had jurisdiction. And invading another country obviously is a violation of international law, but killing civilians while you're doing that is war crimes, crimes against humanity, and then abducting children and bringing them into your country certainly is a war crime on its own. And so the ICC issued an arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin. First time ever that a permanent member of the UN Security Council, Russia, the leader, was indicted and charged and an arrest warrant issued. So this was an earthquake for international law, not just in the international criminal law field, in the wider field.
In the U.S., we base our common law on precedent. Does the International Criminal Court use precedent to support their ruling?
Yeah, that's a great question. In international law, international law is not common law. In fact, most of the world is not a common law system. So in civil law systems, you don't have stare decisis. You're not required to follow the decisions of other judges before you, so there's no precedent. But what you do see is you see referral back to prior cases as instructive of how you should decide your case, but they're not required. So even the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, the other international criminal tribunals, you'll see them referring back to their prior cases and cases in other courts but they're not required to follow them. It's sort of laying the groundwork for the logical component of the case. This is why we should go in that direction.
So are you saying that there could be a situation in the International Criminal Court where the same kind of similar circumstances were decided one way? This International Criminal Court does not have to decide in that way. It can go a totally different direction.
They can. Yeah, they're not bound. Now, they're not likely to.
Okay.
But theoretically, they could. Yeah.
And so for those in the audience who have no understanding of international criminal law, what do you think is the basics that people in the world should know about the international criminal law system?
Right. So it's evolved over 80 years since we started at Nuremberg and ended up with the International Criminal Court today. There's been lots of tribunals that have come into existence and gone out of existence, depending upon what it is that they were designed to do. Like the Yugoslavia Tribunal was just for Yugoslavia. The Rwanda Tribunal was just for Rwanda. And once they finished their cases, they dissolved away. The International Criminal Court in The Hague is permanent. It's not going away. And it's designed to hear cases as they arise. So when genocide happens in one of these countries, it will go to The Hague, if The Hague has jurisdiction at the ICC. And if you are, someone who's caught up in these atrocities, you could be, caught up in The Hague, either as a witness or as a victim or as a perpetrator in the pursuit of international justice, which is a much broader, bigger idea than just national prosecutions.
Most of Americans who have been the victim of our own judicial system, and I know that's a touchy area, right? When we talk about victims of the judicial system, they also understand how a judicial system can also victimize the rest of the world. Is there any likelihood that the United States of America would be held to the same standard that we hold the rest of the world when it comes to international criminal law?
Well, historically, no. Historically, we like to think of ourselves as special in the United States, and this isn't a new thing. This goes all the way back to 1776 and the writing of the Constitution in 1789. We were the first democracy, and we think we're special in lots of ways, and we continue to think that way in Washington, in our federal government, and of course in our state governments, that international law is fantastic for all of you, and you guys need to all comply with international law. As for us, we will comply with it when it's in our interests, and not so much when it's not, knowing that no one can really do anything about it if we don't comply. We are the biggest country in the world, market-wise, with political influence, militarily. There's all kinds of different ways you can slice and dice that. And so other countries can't do much to us in response to us violating international law. We should not violate international law because we like to tell ourselves and tell the rest of the world that the rule of law matters. We love to tell everybody that. And it's hard to tell everybody that if you're not complying with it yourself. So there's a hypocrisy component that we have to deal with as the United States.
Do the people, the citizens of America, have any means or ways to push back or to say we want our system, our government, to be held accountable for these atrocities?
We're a democracy. We need to elect new leaders that want to stand up for the rule of law. But is that abstract concept, standing up for the rule of law and complying with international law, something that the everyday resident in Peoria, Illinois, who's working two jobs because they can't make ends meet, going to care about when they vote? Or are they going to care more about the price of gas, or sending their kids to school, or paying their medical bills?
But it's all connected.
It is all connected. I just don't know, I doubt that abstract concept is going to land well with that person in Peoria.
So can
which means you need to advocate more.
Yeah, well,
right?
we're doing our best. We've got so many things to work on, you know.
Right.
And I think as a Black American, we definitely see America as a bully. But we also don't feel like the international community would come to our rescue as American citizens, you know. So it's kind of tricky.
Right. Yeah, it's sadly been kind of a self-help situation. But, you know, there are times when, you know, the country rises up to take the challenge, like during the American Civil War, to actually get in there and do something. Now that was, you know, a horrible, you know, military engagement. No military engagements are not horrible. But there are, you know, flashpoints and examples when, you know, the country has moved, like passing the Voting Rights Act. You know, the legislative process worked,
dismantled.
the executive process worked, the judicial process worked. That was in the 1960s. The same thing, you know, with Brown versus Board of Education. There are examples of when we can get our act together to lift up communities and help them. But unfortunately, those examples are typically the exceptions. And later examples are ones where these components, whether it's the judiciary or the legislature or the executive branch, decide to go the other direction, like gerrymandering, right? To take away the voting power of communities. That's just one example. There's tons.
There's so many examples. And I'm thinking, as I'm going through this course and I'm learning about the atrocities and learning about how international criminal law work, and I'm wondering, is there any way that we can use international criminal law or any type of precedent to get reparations?
Well, I mean, I can see the argument. The argument is definitely there from a moral perspective. The question is whether it's there from a legal perspective and a political perspective. If you can make the case as a legal perspective, then you're going to end up in court trying to argue about it. I think probably the better venue is going to be the political perspective, because then you can make the moral arguments. Courts don't really care so much about the moral arguments, but moral arguments can persuade politicians, and politicians do control legislative levers, and they also control the purse, unlike courts. So you've got, you know, the same audience that controls the purse and the politics, but the conversation has to be presented in the right context.
Right, and then the issue of the laws that would actually support that were only established in 2002.
Right.
And so we can't ad hoc go back and use those laws to prosecute crimes that happened prior to 2002.
That's right.
So
that's right. You know your statute of limitations.
Because I learned it from this guy.
Good job.
I mean, this has been a great course. It's been very enlightening. I think we kind of live in a bit of a bubble where we only see America problems as America problems, but we are moving into a global society where everybody's problems we become affected, we're impacted in some way. So this class, and I think one of the biggest things that I'm taking away from this class is how the Holocaust was terrible, but we're grateful that Nuremberg exists, and that we went to these trials because this set the foundation for prosecuting genocide, for prosecuting crimes against humanity and war crimes and aggression, which feels a little sticky. Like
it is.
Aggression feels like a moving target.
It is. Very much.
Like an umbrella, you can just kind of throw everything under aggression.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a good takeaway.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's just like, okay, like the way that Black people have sacrificed blood and life and sanity for people from other cultures to come and benefit from the civil rights movement is the same way that the blood and the sanity of the Jewish people have paved the way for us to have these international civil rights.
There certainly is a stratification of all kinds of victim groups. And victim groups, you know, as you learned in international law, can be based upon race, religion, ethnicity, nationality. sometimes political groups, if we're talking not in the genocide context.
Is there any likelihood that gender would end up on that when we've talked
that's
about
an open question.
Transgender people who are persecuted and
Right, that's an open question, and there has to be, a political climate that is open enough to allow for that to be inserted as a new group. I don't know that we're there yet.
Or a martyr.
That's true. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I don't know that we're there yet. We are there yet in progressive, Western industrialized countries. But that doesn't describe all the world. Most of the world are not progressive Western industrialized countries that are open to that. They're more conservative, traditional, whether because of their religion or their culture, and that they have a long way to go yet.
Yeah, and then every country has their own legal system.
Yes.
And then when you're trying to bring all of those countries together and all of those legal systems together under one global judicial system, it's very difficult, especially when you've got some countries like, is it Morocco, that's Sharifa law, and then you've got the civil law, and then you've got common law. I don't know all the rest of them. I'm learning so much about international law here. It's like my mind is exploding.
Wonderful.
I'm coming in. Some people know a lot. I know a little bit of history and stuff, but international law.
Well, you know more now.
I do know more now. I'm going to go back home and pop my collar because I know more than everybody else. Is there anything that you would like to leave with the audience who are not legal scholars? Most of these folks are not going into law school, and they have their ideas and perceptions about the international world. How do we make sure that we're getting reliable information?
That's going to be more of a challenge in the world of AI. It's going to be harder and harder to distinguish between what's real and what's not real. But at the end of the day, truth is what the law is about. That's why we go to trial, to discover the truth, discover who did what, sort out the perpetrators from the victims, and hold people accountable. When people do wrong, they need to be held accountable. When corporations do wrong, they need to be held accountable. When countries do wrong, they need to be held accountable. And accountability at the end of the day is what we're all about. And if you can hold people accountable in your community, in a different way from prosecuting them or litigating, then you need to shout out and do that. You need to call it when you see it.
I think the scariest thing about calling it out is that you become a target yourself.
You do. You have to be brave.
Yeah.
You have to be brave.
Yeah. I think that this generation is not willing to shed the blood that maybe previous generations before were saying this is do or die, right? Like if we don't speak up. And now we're just kind of trying to just stay comfortable in our little spaces instead of uncomfortably hanging our shingle.
Well, and
because the person that hangs the shingle is the one that gets pushed over the roof.
It is. And part of, I suppose, what I would tell your audience is, don't think about yourself so much. Think about the generations that are going to come after you. So, if you're having trouble figuring out whether you're going to call out something happening that's wrong, it affecting you, think about the fact that the generations after you won't benefit if you don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And now here we are benefiting from the work that was done previously from multiple communities, so that we have an international court where we can even prosecute these things.
That's right.
So thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
To chat with me. And you're leaving us now.
I am.
I'm so sad. I really am. Now I've got to get adjusted to someone all over again.
Right.
Because you've been absolutely great.
Well, thank you.
And anyone who is in law school, or do you take undergraduates in this program?
Yes.
Interested in this program to come out next year and be a part of it, I definitely recommend that you do that. And you can go on to Creighton's website.
Yeah, Creighton University School of Law.
Yes.
The Nuremberg to The Hague Summer School program. Come spend the month of July with us in Europe and learn about international criminal justice and the Holocaust.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor Kelly. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.